And we are live with Dr. Christopher Macklin. Thanks for joining us in Grimerica. It's been a long time coming. We've been talking about some of the stuff that you research and write about for a while, but thank you for coming to join us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yay, we're doing it.
What an interesting time. Interesting time to be researching and following UFOs and all that stuff. It's fascinating.
Well, it's everything. I mean, everything, sometimes I look outside and I don't recognize this planet anymore. It's like totally different.
Yeah.
Take a peek outside. Let's ignore it. Let's just focus on what we're doing. It's
insane. Yeah. Touch grass, as they say. Go outside, touch some grass. So, tell us a little bit about yourself before we sort of dive into it.
Well, when I was born, it was interesting because I've always been gifted, but of course, if you're coming down to do a job, like, starseed person, whatever you want to call them, they know who you are. They can read your energy and everything else. So 2 days after I was born, 8 strokes. Then I burnt my back when I was 4, and this went on and on and on. I've been attacked right through my life. I could see, beings, oh my God, age of 4, I could see like reptilians in my bedroom. Dad, there's a reptilian. And he goes, comes running where? It's there, and he couldn't see him, of course. So I've got the gift of seeing through the veil. And, I've always gone through life, could see craft in the sky and things like this. And of course, tell anybody that, it's just a bad dream, or, it's your imagination. And, well, it wasn't. Anyway, now I use it, of course. But, I moved forward and left school, got a degree, got a master's, got PhD, and later on with, the stuff I'm doing now. But about 2007, I went completely bankrupt. I was in corporate doing flight control systems and all these other things. And then 2007, it was almost like a 10x4. Whole life fell apart, I was building a load of apartments in Manchester, That's a kind of Trump type level thing, way out of my league. But, you think you can do it or not.
Would that have been your guys' version of it? Because in 2008, obviously 2007 strikes a thing, because in 2008 it sort of all falls apart in the US. So is this sort of, because in Canada we're sort of ignorant to a lot of this, because they managed to pull some strings and prop some shit up and print. We're gonna go through it. There's a good argument that we're starting to go through it now, but we sort of skipped by a lot of that 2008 crisis that affected the US, and it sounds like it hit the UK in 2007.
Oh yeah, bad. I remember the apartments. We were building 173 and designing it, everything else, bought the land. And then the bank phones up and they said, well, these apartments that were worth £220,000 are now worth 90. So less than half. So you got 14 days to pay your money back. And I thought, oh. And they took us bankrupt within a month, and marriage split up, everything split up. And actually, it was a blessing because, I had no money, but I had no debt either. And it was like quite liberating. And that's when I really awoken to really focusing on my spiritual gifts, went to Belize, went all over the world. And, but I remember having a reading. This is really interesting. In 2000, I had a reading, and it was just outside Liverpool, a place called Birkenhead, a little bit rough, and lady was 84. So I turned up there. All right, let's sit down, okay. So he goes, okay, I'm going to start the reading. So she, oh, okay. Thank you. Kept there, thank you. Put all these things down. She said, you're going to get remarried. I thought, okay. You're going to move to America. Okay. And you're going to do healings, work for God, and live off donations. Is this woman insane or what? And, here we are. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. I love what I do. People say, do flight controls. I did the flight controls for Eurofighter, for Airbus and things like that. It must be really exciting. It was boring, I used to look around and say, God, there's got to be more than this. It's just software, boring. But, and here we are. I love what I do now. And it's a real passion.
That's like one of those things that you think AI could probably be pretty good at, is like making sure planes don't crash into each other. Is that kind of what it was? Is that like that air traffic control, like the movies are about and stuff like that?
The autopilot system's got like 4 processors, and you put your waypoints in, you fly to different points, and They've all got different amounts of waypoints. And, at that time, I mean, it wasn't AI driven. I mean, the Eurofighter was actually an unstable airframe. So without the correction of the autopilot, it would drop out the sky. And the reason for that is because it's so unstable, if you want to make a maneuver, you can do it really fast. If you get a really stable airframe, if you want to make a maneuver, it takes, to bank, it takes too long. So that's the first time they started really using unstable airframes to be able to maneuver a lot faster. I mean, now it's AI driven, so it's different.
Well, I got to ask before we start getting into this, because you mentioned you've been seeing this stuff since you were born, which is, a while back. So it seems, are you noticing more entities or any change in what your vision's showing? Because it seems like over the last 20 or 30 years, what seemed to started as like maybe just a political ideology has sort of morphed into what is starting to resemble real evil, like whether it's the kid stuff or the totalitarianism or the mandatory this and the mandatory that and the don't leave the house. And it's like, from our perspective, I'm sure you would agree, we'll see when you answer the question, but we've been doing this 13 years. So you've seen it kind of what started as like a fun passion project. I mean, there was evil out there, but it seems to be more, and I don't know if it's a nature of the business we're in, but it seems like evil is just becoming more and more and more prevalent over the last 10 or 20 years at least. So I'm wondering if someone has got this sort of gift, what does that look like to you?
Evil. Yeah, satanically evil. It's interesting because, if you look at the Vatican, if you look at, the Dalai Lama's life, if you look at the royals, if you look at, whatever you look at, it's all satanic. It's all rotten to the core. Obviously the cabal, the people in government, I'm not talking about all of them, but I'm talking about political people. Obviously there's a regime who just want to take over the world. We know who they are, and obviously Epstein files are piling out. But I think, I think the God within us and the white hat, I don't know whether I like the word white hat, but the people who care about humanity, patriot people who care about humanity, not all the money. And I mean, the money's worthless. People talk about trillions of dollars. Well, the dollar bill's worth nothing right now. It's probably worth a couple of cents than it was in 1973. So why are people worshipping that? It's just insane. But it's got darker and darker. And of course, look at the child trafficking, look at adrenochrome, look at everything, it's insane. But you've got to remember that these people are puppets in the government. The real issue is the reptilians, the draconians, the Luciferians, the Anunnaki. All these guys have got together and they want to actually take over this planet. And it's not happening. We're being allowed to fight back. And luckily we've got races who are helping us with new technologies like, plasma weapons, where they can actually destroy craft. Before we couldn't, the conventional firearm would not work on them. And so we've got a whole host of new technology coming, which we've been given, which we've been exercising, in the United States. And yeah, it works. So, but also these reptilians, of course, are in a different dimension. They can shapeshift into this dimension, but they come from the fourth dimension, which means they're around in spirit, but they can attach to you, and I've seen a lot more prevalent action over the last 5-6 years, where these things are coming in the night and scratching people, because they can switch in this dimension, scratch people and switch out and disappear. And you think, God, what's those scratches I'm about? Who did that? Well, it's a being that it can shapeshift in this dimension for a quarter of a second, scratch you, disappear, and you don't know. They're also attacking people. They're also energetically raping people as well, and that's happened a lot. It's insane. So it's up to us to step up our game and actually use what I call maps of intent. I don't like the word prayer because it's very Christian. I'm not a Christian, but I do follow Jesus' teachings. I think they're great. But I'm not a Christian because the Bible's been written by a couple of pedophiles like King James and Constantine. Yeah. So would you want to read that stuff? Probably not. But that's up to people, just my opinion.
It's got to be an interesting time because you've been doing this for a long time. I mean, did you ever think you'd see the time where you've got like a sitting president and a former president sort of bickering back and forth about aliens and whether it's and I mean, this
It's insane.
at the same time as these Epstein files come out. I mean, it's the conspiracy community that we sort of spend some time in is all sort of nothing's fast enough, and it's all just there's a lot of black pill going on there. But I mean, for someone who's been in the game as long as you have, it's got to be fucking crazy, because it's like, who would have ever thought that either of those two things were going to happen? And now they're both happening seemingly simultaneously.
Oh yeah, and I think there's a lot more going to come out. I mean, I think what they're doing is disclosing very carefully. And people say, well, there's been no arrests. Well, there's arrests at the background, but they're not really focused on delivering. Although, look at central casting. Look at Biden, central casting. They've now admitted that he was gone in 2019. So, I mean, I've been called a tinfoil hat person, conspiracy theorist. It's getting old a bit, I remember phoning my dad one day and he goes, I've got to tell you something. What's that? He goes, you're barking mad. I said, oh my God. I said, you know what? That's the best compliment, Dad, you've ever given me. Because he's always berated me because I've got severe dyslexia. I mean, I wrote all these books and people say, how the heck do you write these books? Well, I've got a ghostwriter. I dictate the stuff. I'm not good at writing. I'm not good at reading either because, when you read a sentence, you miss stuff out. But the point is that I think all these conspiracy theories are coming true, and now people are actually turning around and saying, I had a client, I work on 3,000 people a week, thereabouts, working on healing, working on emotion release, working on cancer, working on all sorts of stuff. And of course, the bioweapons. I know we want to talk about that, but that's really significant. We can talk about that and go real in depth. And, the other day, this lady said, well, my husband's a banker and he thinks I'm nuts. My kids think I'm a conspiracy theorist, and then suddenly the Epstein files drop, and the son's phone. Oh my God, I feel sick. So yeah, I think for us who have been in the game for a long time, they always say in the Q post, the end won't be for everybody. Even the most seasoned people will be shocked. And I'm kind of thinking, what would shock me in this world? The answer is probably nothing. I know what happens, I've seen the satanic stuff. I've remote viewed these dumbs where the kids are, and I only ever did it once. And I threw up, and because when you remote view, you can smell, as well as see, and it's absolutely disgusting. And after that, I decided I can't go there, And so, I've got a good understanding of all this stuff. And so, what would shock you? Oh, a nuclear bomb goes off, Well, I mean, they won't, because the Arcturians are actually disabling them. But the point is, I don't know what would shock me anymore, because we've got a good understanding of most of the evil on this planet.
So what do you think the official capital D disclosure then is going to look like? I mean, Trump's actually, he's kind of come out and said he's going to declassify all this stuff. So, it's kind of still in their control. And I've been, I was kind of the believer of us two for quite a few years. Now I'm becoming a little more skeptical with everything, because I've also seen kind of like the new age community kind of fall for, COVID, and there's been now there's like, we're all split in all these different ways. And I don't trust a lot of what I hear from the spiritual community either. So it's kind of, in some ways, I got to be careful I don't get too, black, and I don't think black pilled is the right word, because I'm not black pilled in the general, but just too untrusting of all these groups and all these people. But what do you think this is going to look like going forward? I mean, they're going to talk, because there's been a lot of talk in the last couple of years about angels and demons and UFOs, and that's kind of the core part of your work too, is looking at the angelic aspect. So what do you think?
Oh yeah, well, I think they're going to start disclosing things like tall greys, maybe the grey reticular, start with them, and then, moving on, how far they'll get. I mean, again, it's going to be dropped little by little, but, I hope they do drop the fact that these reptilians were in control. They're not so much now. I mean, we've got tall greys helping us, the ones that have redeemed themselves are benevolent, and they're actually working with the administration to find ways to sort this, technology out. Without the technology, we wouldn't make it.
Yeah. Are they ETs? Do you consider them ETs or just NHI? Like now that seems like they're all these new terms, you know, non-human intelligence as opposed to extraterrestrial. I mean, are they interdimensional from the inner earth, or do you consider a lot of this really like just back to the ETH?
Well, I think a lot of, I mean, the reptilians, like the Anunnaki, have been here forever. So is the Draconians. They're actually on Navarro. You know, they come around every 36,000 years, and they're coming close again, which means that they're amping up their thing. You know, you've got also the Nordics. You know, taking care of Greenland. You've got, you know, the tall greys also in Greenland. A lot of the reptilian element are in actually Antarctica, and that's where the core of the firmament and that is being created. That's why we want Greenland to actually get the northern hemisphere, so we can actually, you know, get rid of that and put our own golden dome around it, basically to keep these things out, you know, which will be a good thing. So, you know, there's a lot of
golden dome is. Then at the end of the day, it's nothing to do with missiles. It's more to do with ETs.
Yeah, it is a lot to do with ETs. I mean, it's not all. What they're trying to do is get God frequency. So they're using plasma energy. You know, I mean, sun's plasma energy. Obviously, the sun is firing lasers at the moment. It's actually upgrading our bodies from from carbon to crystalline. That's why everyone's struggling at the moment, eating and don't know what to eat, and, you know, exhausted because your whole body's upgrading. But what they want to do is put a plasma, you know, kind of energy system around it where it's God energy. And these satanic, you know, draconian type beings, you know, Anunnaki, Draconians, whatever, Luciferians, they don't like, you know, high vibrational energy, and so it'll keep a dome where it'll keep us actually safe. Because at the moment, I mean, they're prevalent all over the planet, and it's their last ditched attempt. Don't forget, so they're really going to amp it up. You know, and people say, "Oh, it's all the, you know, the prime ministers and presidents. They're just puppets." You know, it's the actual reptilian element behind it that have had the technology. And the greys, of course, you know, the grey reticular.
So do you think we're going to believe them when they? I mean, because I don't even know what to believe anymore. You know,
I would advise everyone to go within and use your intuition. It's like the truth-seeking community. You know, some of it's full of shit, some of it's not. You know, and how do you know? Well, a lot of people don't know, and so my opinion is, you know, you sort of say, okay, you know, what percentage is this podcast correct? You know, if it's 90%, you know, do you get everything right? Probably not. But if it's 90% correct, you're doing your best, and, you know, but, you know, use your intuition. Okay, what percentage? Douse it. You know, use a dowsing rod. You know, a pendulum or something. You know, and douse it. What percentage? And if it's over 90%, yeah, listen to it. If it's like 70 or 50, then they're there as controlled opposition. A lot of these people get money from the CIA and from different areas, so, and that's what props them up. That's why they become very well off. That's why they become very big. I mean, I've been on this game, you know, since 2010, and you know, if I turned it into a Christian academy or whatever, it'd be huge by now. But I'm not willing to actually give away my sovereignty. You know what I mean? I believe in one God, many paths, and whatever path you want, it's up to you. You know.
Yeah.
But I will not sell myself to anybody, you know, including the CIA. And believe you me, there's been some attempts to, are you interested? No, you know. And so I just say sovereign. So what it means is that when you're on the right path, will you be a multi-billionaire? No. But you'll always have enough to be able to pay the bills and things like that. You know what I mean? Because God's always got your back. And I really believe that. So,
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Do you have any predictions then on what these next? Because it's sort of the most volatile time geopolitically in my lifetime, at least. You know, I don't know. You know, we had 9/11 before I was born in 81, so there's really not a lot of. You know, you got the fall of the Soviet Union. I was too young for that, but that didn't seem like a bad thing from where we were sitting, or from where a lot of them were sitting. But now everything seems, I don't know, maybe more comparable to where it was 90 years ago or something like that, leading up to World War II, where sort of all bets are off. Who the fuck knows what's going on in a few weeks? So I'm wondering if you have any idea? Because it seems like you're more optimistic than a lot of the people we talk to. So how do you think this plays out over the next 5 or 10 years, or how long does it take?
I think very quickly there's going to be peace. And I think, they're going to sort Iran out. People say, oh, we're going to war with Iran. No, it's not. It's an extraction, taking the cabal people out. The people of Iran want their country back. All these people want their country back. Ukraine, everywhere. But, they've got these leaders in that are just satanic cabal puppets, whatever you want to call them, So I think there's going to be an extraction around, get that sorted, and I think eventually they'll sort out Ukraine as well and give the people their country back. And I think it's going to be very different in the future, because we're also traveling towards a higher vibration, because our bodies are changing. So when that switches in, if you get 5D type frequencies, I mean, that's a high frequency. And with that comes ability to manifest, everything will change. You won't need money. You can manifest things, or if you can't manifest things, you can use one of Tesla's replicators, where you say, okay, I want a dinner, whatever it is, and it'll produce it. So, I think the world's going to be very different. We'll have Stargate technology where if you get you'll have like a door frame, seen this technology, but and you can dial if I want to come over to you guys, say I'm going to Darren's place. Okay, what's your code? And you type the code in, you walk through it, and you'll come out in your, in your living room through your, Stargate thing. And so it'll obliterate the fact that you need aircraft anymore. Yes, you'll probably need cars. They'll be flying. I mean, anti-gravitation will be around forever since the 1940s. All this stuff has, so the technology is going to be incredible. And I think, we're going towards that. And of course, this Josiah and Asaro, when they decide to actually invoke that, all the banks will be toast, the dollar bill will be toast, it'll be gold backed. And I think it's going to be, I'm actually really optimistic. I think it's going to be amazing. It's just that the problem is it's always darkest before the dawn. And I think we're getting to that real dark place at the moment. There's so much chaos, so many things happening. People's heads are spinning. My advice is get out of the matrix and just focus on having a great time, within yourself. If people berate you, okay, you don't need them in your life, you don't have to judge them, but, set boundaries and say, you stay over there, and have people who really love you and, are there for you, and you can have a laugh with. Because at this time, if you engage with a matrix, it's going to drag the energy out of you. It really is.
Do you think they're going to let go? I mean, are they going to go without a fight? I mean, the problem that I see is that we're being bifurcated into these factions that just can't even coexist together. Like, how are we going to even, one faction seems to kind of just want to be left alone, want to leave others alone. The other one seems to want to control. That's just very generalized, but it seems to be that's how it's shaking out. So how are we going to get through this part where they're just not letting go,
Well, they'll let go eventually, I think, because as the energy increases, you start, the thing is about this plasma energy and everything, you start releasing a lot of your trauma. I mean, just being on this planet's traumatic, the place is nuts, and you're going to get trauma just being here. And, if you can stay stable, I always tell my clients, if you can stay stable during this time, I think you're doing amazing. But I think a lot of the bifurcation, I think people are starting to realize, there are an element of people, a very small element, who are just mentally ill and need to go to asylums and, be taken care of. But I think the bifurcation, it's just hatred, like you say, mask versus no mask, vax versus no vax, you got LGBTQ versus whatever, and it's just all nonsense. I mean, during that pandemic, I wouldn't wear a mask. I won't wear a mask for anybody. It's not law. It's mandated, which is not law. And so I remember going to Best Buy, and they said, you got to put your mask on, sir. So I said, I've got the screaming habdabs. And he goes, oh, okay, stand over there then. And I could see him, what the hell is the screaming habdabs? And so I stood over there and I'll get someone to serve you. And they did. I never put a mask on. And I had a doctor's note to say he's got the screaming habdabs. And what I didn't realize, if you search on Google, there is a condition called the screaming habdabs. Oh, God. I had some fun with it because I think it's all nonsense, And of course, wearing a mask, the pathogens are, globules are like 3 microns, Mask is 80 microns, so it's just like having a big net over your face. Is it going to protect you? Of course it's not. But what you will do is recycle all your all the breaths back in, with the the different mold and things like that. So yeah, it did a number on people. I'm just shocked how people got sucked in. I mean, are you kidding? I've now done a lot of work on this bioweaponry, more than most of these people, these doctors and everything else, because I'm not a medical doctor, never would be. But we did so much research because you can't heal something if you don't understand how it works. And this stuff's like crazy, absolutely crazy.
Well, you got to tell us a little bit about what happened, what your research found then.
Well, when I got into
is there a spiritual aspect to it?
Yeah, there's an interdimensional, there's a spiritual, quantum, it's all connected. So in 2010, I got here, of course, opened the ministry, and then, it started growing, and I got out, spoke around. And then I met Dr. Hildy Stanninger. She's a world-leading toxicologist, and she introduced me to a thing called Morgellons disease. And I thought, what the heck's that? Okay, so we started studying that, and she showed me pictures, and we looked under the microscopes, and, she told me the content of it, which is absolutely astounding. It's got nylon in it. It's got polymers, silicates, it's got all this stuff. Anyway, so started research on it, and I started, okay, right, now I understand how it works. And it's what I call live dead stuff. It's a biologically alive, but it's dead because it's got no soul. It's AI, so I had to sort of figure out how to heal it. So I've got this thing called space-time continuum, a bit like plasma. What it does is it fries it. The problem is that some of it switches dimensions. So what happens if you send it some energy and it just switches dimensions? It's not receiving the energy to kill it off, and then when the energy stops, it switches back again. And I recently had a thing with Dr. O. Young, and I was talking to his microbiologist, and I said, you must have seen the interdimension. She said, what do you mean? I said, these particles, under a microscope, they'll just disappear. She goes, oh my God, yeah, I've seen that, and I was talking to her about also the black goo, which is the reticular black goo from their planet. They brought it down here, sadly. And I was talking about the black goo, and she said, oh yeah, I've seen the black goo. I said, you know what it is? It's like, it's the crude oil. I mean, the crude oil is not, it's not made of mollusks and everything else. It's the heart of the planet. It's the blood of the planet. And same with the reticular. So when they destroyed theirs, they brought some of it down here. So it's also bound with the particles. And then, of course, all made by DARPA, of course, and now they've put it in the jab. So Morgellons only replicates in your body if your DNA is damaged. So the old way is to ingest agrobacterium. It's in GMO foods or it's in vaccines, and it would, over a period of time, damage the DNA. DNA, RNA, immune's all connected. So you didn't have the immune response, so the stuff would replicate in your body and grow through your tissue, and you become transhuman. So how did they get over that? Well, in the new vaccine, the COVID vaccine, they put CRISPR technology, and what it does is it goes after the chromosomes. It splices the chromosomes, which means that, suddenly your DNA is damaged straight away. DNA, RNA, immune system, so you don't have the immune response, the stuff replicates. But the other thing about it as well, when your DNA is damaged, if it's damaged enough, the light body in your DNA, in your whole body, is not compatible with your soul. So what happens is the soul lifts out the body, and then in comes Archons. That's where the Archon covenant came from. That's why they wanted to get the Archons a body to ride around it, because they don't have a body. And, so yeah, that's why a lot of people who take the jab are kind of checked out, but really aggressive, because you're talking to an entity. You're not talking to, them anymore. So that was interesting. But when it replicates, what happens? Well, you get nylon coming out your skin. So how does that work? Well, it's off-planet technology. So what they're using is graphene. Graphene's carbon. So what do you need for growth? Carbon, oxygen, water, whatever. So the way they've bound the nylon, and it's not, shirt is nylon 9. We're talking about nylon 36, 33, which is a different element altogether. It's very squidgy. And, that grows through the body. So it grows through arteries. So you've seen people take squid out the arteries. You get basically the nano growing through the heart muscle. So people get myocarditis, they get stroke, they get all sorts of things. You get the liver and kidneys have got scar tissue. So over a period of time, as it grows, you become transhuman. and then eventually it will just take over the body, and you get into trouble with it. So people are, so it's a horrible thing, but yeah.
Darren, do you got any questions?
How do you get rid of it?
You don't. Actually, it's interesting because if you look at Dr. Tenpenny and different people, she thought pine needle tea would do it, and then she realized, she came on and said, nothing will take it out, because don't forget it's interdimensional, so it can switch out. So if you put like a compound to try and get rid of it, you can't detox it because it's part of your tissue. It becomes part of your tissue. And so, but it also switches dimensions. So what happens if it disappears and then you're giving someone treatment and then it just comes back again? It's insane stuff. So
there's got to be a way to shut off that interdimensional capability. I mean,
well, I spent about 2.5 years looking for a solution. I developed one. So what it is this. The Melchizedek beings, I don't really know much about Melchizedek beings, but they developed the Akashic Records. I was born as one. And why did they develop the Akashic Records? Because if you go back in time on a timeline, so say, Darren, I'm going to take you back to 1936 and Hitler's there doing stuff. And you think, well, why don't we just take him out and, it'll change history? You can't, because his timeline's already happened. You've gone back in time. You see what I mean? So if you go on past timelines, you cannot change other people's timeline from that timeline. And so it stops the space-time continuum of being actually really kind of fractured. So, but what we can do is split timelines in two. It's a Melchizedek thing. So what we do is split somebody's timeline in two. So we grab them and put them on a path of divine alignment, complete wellness, where all the particles, all the nylons, silicates, polymers, spike protein, HIV microinserts, everything is eradicated on this timeline. On the other timeline to the sun, what we do is strip out the particles and lock them on a timeline to the sun. So now they're locked on in this 3D world on a timeline to the sun. So what happens is, if they go to the fourth dimension, they disappear. When they come back, they're locked on that timeline. They cannot get off that timeline. And but the other thing about it as well, of course, the DNA is damaged. So after time goes on a little bit, it takes about 18 weeks. When someone's vibration is high enough, the Melchizedek beings can go in and work on the DNA. So they go in the cell where life began, they repair all the chromosomes, connect all the heats together, and reset the DNA of that cell back to the blueprint in the Akashic Records, cells around it. So when the whole thing's done, your body's back to where it should be. All the particles and the nylons and everything have been stripped out the body, and your soul reintegrates because it's compatible now with the light body of your DNA. So we're on our 73rd group. We do it once a month. And we have anywhere between like 6, 8, 10, 15 people, who knows. And we've had amazing success. It's stripped out all this Morgellons and jab stuff and everything. Yeah. So
how do people find that group?
Yeah, just go onto our website if you're interested. I mean, I get a lot of people saying, well, I had to take the vaccine because I'm a nurse or I'm a doctor. Well, you don't have to take it, but I understand because they've got to feed their family. And so I've had a lot of doctors and nurses come on and say, I've got to get rid of this stuff, and it's on the website, the protocol.
What's
Global
the website?
Enlightenment Project, globalenlightenmentproject.com.
Okay.
So if you're interested, I have to work on you 3 times a day, every day for about 36 to 38 weeks to get rid of it. So it's a lot of work, but it's had amazing effects. Yeah, so this bioweapon is evil, and it's crimes against humanity. It's not a vaccine; it's a bioweapon.
Is it where did it come from? Do you have any? Because it wasn't. They say they made it, but if you just do the math on how long it should have taken to make billions of the fucking things, it seems pretty clear they were sitting in a warehouse someplace ready to go. So and Trump kind of mixes into that too, because he's the one who called Operation Warp Speed in the end. But now it seems like, so that it was almost like that was a disillusionment for him to be any real change in the system. And I can hear people yelling at their phones already, but lately it's starting to seem like there's a change in the system, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I think he did Warp Speed because there's 2 choices. The cabal would have locked people down for about 10 years with all this nonsense, and can't go to work, can't do this, can't do that. It would have destroyed the economy. So the thing is about politics, there's never a right or wrong answer. I don't think it's about Republican or whatever. I think it's about the people. Do the people need to be locked down for 10 years, or do we do warp speed and get something so we can reopen the place? And yes, there's going to be casualties either way. But how? And the answer is, how do you navigate that? And the answer is, I don't know. I'm not a politician, but
Yeah. There's
what I mean.
Nuanced.
I never want to be either.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm patriot. I'm for people. I'd love to see this country go back to something like the older Native American ways, where you got the chief of the, you got the chief of the state, and maybe a few people in government at the top. But I'd love it to see it be back to the people, not this cabal system. But So anyway, where did it come from? Well, let's have a look. So it came from the grey reticular. They were talking about hybrids and this, that, and the other. You guys know that they did a deal where, first of all, it was Hitler, where they could steal eggs and sperm to create their own hybrids. They're not very smart, by the way, the reticular. And then obviously they signed a deal here so they could continue doing the same thing. Now, what they were doing is they were stealing eggs and sperm, and they were putting them in a plastic pod. And they think, hang on a minute, this is not a proper human being. What was happening is that you were getting a draconian soul in. It wasn't a proper human being. They checked out, and they figured out that, oh yeah, you need a woman's womb with the god energy to get a proper human soul in. If you try and do it outside, that's why if you do chest tube babies, they start to get it to fertilize, put it straight back in the womb, because otherwise you're going to get some robotic thing. And that's why, if you look at the percentage of non-player characters here, it's about 65-70% of non-player characters. That means characters that were born in some pod-like thing, and they've got a draconian AI soul. They're checked out. And you can see that when you walk around. If you go in if you go into a shop or something, you can see them walking amongst us. So anyway, so they did all that. So they gave them technology. So the first was Agent Orange in 1965. Agent Orange is one step away. So if you look at Brilliant Lyme, HIV/AIDS, Agent Orange, they're one step away. They're almost the same thing, but the Agent Orange attacks the nervous system more. So it's a stealth pathogen, so it replicates, and all the co-infection, everything make you really sick. And then the second one in 1975, it was adapted, and we called it Lyme disease, or Borrelia, which is the stealth pathogen of Lyme disease, 1975. And then in 1981, they developed HIV/AIDS. That came about, and so on. And then in 2002, they identified Morgellons. I think it was created before that. And the thing is about Morgellons, the particles are 10 to the -9 small. And you think, well, okay, some of them, you've got graphene tubes, graphene spheres. How do you manufacture them? You can't. You have to grow them. So DARPA actually grows them, so just interesting things. So, yeah.
How big did you say they were?
10 to the -9 small. So it's 1 nanometer, like teeny. That's why what's happening at the moment. Think about this: if you take the jab and it's growing through your heart muscle, and suddenly you have a heart attack, and they scan you, so nothing wrong with your heart. I was talking to a cardiologist in our local hospital, and I said, "You must be getting a lot of people with myocarditis symptoms." He goes, "Well, yeah, I said, "I bet you scan them, you don't see anything, you think they're okay, and send them home." "Yeah, how do you know?" I said, "Because the stuff's 10 to the -9 small. On a normal scan, you will not see it." So if anyone's got this, the best test, and it's only 65 to 70% correct, is a D-dimer test, where you can actually check for microclots, in the heart. D-dimer test. So it's just helping you guys out if you're worried about that,
Yeah, that got pretty popular in BC. There was a little town called Lytton. There was a doctor that came from Lytton, BC, because he was trying to get these adverse event reports submitted, and they were really pushing back against him, like the official college of doctors in BC. And he was the one that seemed to bring that D-dimer test to popularity. He was like, well, that's how you have to test it to see if you've got the issues there.
But it's only 65 or 70% cooked anyway, because the protein might not be there. You know what I mean? It's there at the start, maybe not there that day, and you think, oh no, you're okay. So yeah. But it's insane. I remember being on a podcast, and there was a call in, and it's the only one I've ever had call in where this microbiologist he calls in, he goes, oh my God, I found the nylon in all this stuff, and I put it in my mass spectrometer, it's nylon, and he said, wow, you're the only one I've heard talking about it. And they call it squid. I don't know if you've seen the Undertakers where they pull squid out the arteries. It's just, it's that, so nylon.
That's basically once it like coalesces, all those little nano things coalesce into that thing. Yeah.
Well, they actually grow. The whole nylon will grow. The way it's been bound to the particles, because it's got all the, it's got the graphene and everything else. So it starts growing as nylon, but also with the particles start growing through the whole body. And that's the problem is people are becoming transhuman. And I think it was ruled that, now human beings who have the DNA changed aren't human anymore. They're kind of transhuman or whatever. So you don't have the same rights as a human being. I think it's insane, It's really
You'll have more rights.
That if they need to grow nano stuff inside people, they're not going to hesitate to do it. They'll just be like, oh, we need this shit. Throw it in a bunch of people and we'll grab it after they're dead.
Oh yeah, I mean it's actually a culling of the world's population. That's all they're interested in. The whole thing was designed to.
Do you think it succeeded? I mean, was it any? Because we've always sort of argued back and forth whether it's successful or not. Because you can look at a bunch of different ways. I mean, they seem to make it effective enough to be effective, but not so effective to make everybody freak out about it.
Well, the problem is that people are just dropping dead with it. What happens is, just walk along, suddenly heart attack, you're gone.
But there's not enough. But there's not enough people to wake up the neighbors. Everybody's still kind of. There's enough not happening to keep everybody just with their heads down, and you know what I mean.
Well, what
I feel like if it was 5 or 10% more, then everybody would know. It's like they really kind of. So I don't know if that's intentional or if they just messed up and they didn't expect it to be the way it turned out.
Well, there is another event which is interesting. I didn't mention this, but so you've got graphene tubes, and it's got CMOS. You know what CMOS is? Complementary metal oxide arrays in it, 10 to the minus 9 small. Transmit receive frequencies. Guess what? It's the 5G tower. So they can monitor your heart rate. They can monitor everything about your brainwave, everything else. The graphene oxide nanospheres, it's like having a big football, and they've got 92 loaded viruses of different types, like Marburg and whatever you want, Zoster. I've seen it. There was a bit of an issue with Zoster a lot, with my clients. Suddenly people getting shingles, and they've separated the chickenpox, the pox bit, cerebella from the Zoster, and somehow. And anyway, and 92 viruses, they're all triggered at a separate frequency, between 30 and 300 gigahertz. Now, don't forget, microwave oven runs at 2.4 gigahertz, I think it is. So this thing is really, high frequency, and they can, if they want to, if they want to release the Marburg virus suddenly, which actually destroys the cerebellum, it eats it away. You're going to get zombified people. So this is kind of a smoking gun that could be triggered on 5G. So who knows whether they'll do that? Now people are loaded with it. All they have to do is fire the frequency. So my advice, if you've taken these jabs, is please get them out. But it's up to you guys. And it's dangerous.
How will we know if that happens?
You'll start seeing people get really sick. I mean, if Marburg gets in the brain, you're going to be at an overload of people who are walking around, can't think straight because the cerebellum is starting to dissolve. The virus dissolves it really quick. So that's where the zombie type thing comes in, because, they literally can't do anything except walk around, So, yeah. It's mad.
It's too bad the FDA got rid of all their zombie war instructions on what to do during a zombie outbreak. I mean, do you remember all that was there, Darren? In 2021 and 2022? We were reading it all. It's no longer there anymore. It's like it's not fun. It's not fun anymore. So Do you want to just talk about angels and UFOs a little bit before we run out of time? Like do you think that the angels? I've listened to a couple of your shows that you've been on before, and it seems like. Do you think that the angels then are ETs really? Like it's just one and the same thing, so it becomes kind of just kind of an overlap of phenomena that's not so easy to distinguish between religious and sci-fi type phenomena.
Yeah, I mean, to me, angel, archangel, I'll explain the difference between them, but angelic beings, I mean, to me, like the beings who are helping us are extraterrestrial beings. They're from Orion, wherever they're from. Arcturus in the 7th or 12th dimension. So what beings are they? Well, you got the, Pleiadians, Arcturians, Lemurians, Atlanteans, Andromedans, Lyrans, all those sort of guys. They're all, the ones that are helping, of course, are benevolent, and they want humanity to succeed. So, they're extraterrestrial, but what makes them angelic? Like, for example, Archangel Michael, he's an ancient Pleiadian. So what makes him angelic from the average Pleiadian? The answer is, first of all, to be angelic, you've got to have reached that place where you're in this place of unconditional love. You've got rid of your trauma. You're just pretty blissy and, like, wow. So that makes you angelic. What makes an archangel? Wisdom. So they've been around a lot longer. They've seen a lot more things and can help with a lot of wisdom, like, courage, protection. That's what Archangel Michael is about. Gabriel, from Sirius. Raphael from Andromeda. Again, ancient Andromedan, as opposed to just, another Andromedan might be angelic, but not Archangel, not angelic. So, and they're there to help us, a lot of people call on Archangel Michael more than any of them. And, he's there, he's available, and, he can actually come and really give you guidance. Very often people can feel him, but they can't see him. I can actually see him. So he actually turned up a couple of times in my life when I've needed him, just to give me confirmation. I've had Mother Mary turn up. Because when I was talking about Luciferians with the Vatican, how satanic it was, in 224, it was about August. They use a low frequency energy weapon on you, and they can actually hit your heart, and it melts the heart valves together, the flaps of the heart valve. So they did that to my aortic valve, and I got really sick real quick. So I went, and Mother Mary came to me and I said, well, can we heal this quick enough? She goes, no, you need an operation. So unfortunately, my heart's very big because it's accused that the valve is bigger than the ones that go off the shoulder. So they said, well, we have to open it up and reduce the hole and mess about. Oh, great. So they cut us open and did that, in 2024. That's the 290th time they've tried to take me out. It's insane. But we're still here, I think, anyway. Yep. It's insane, honestly. People say, how do you manage it? We just get on with it. I'm here to help people. And of course you get bumps.
So this whole like angels versus demons and ETs thing, like in your opinion, it's a fair question in a lot of ways, right? It's when people see this phenomena, it could be both at once.
Oh yeah, I mean, we're battling demons, all the time. I mean, that's why we have power of prayer, the maps of intent. We've got probably one of the most powerful prayers there is, which is, I call it the 27 esoteric Merkaba field prayer. And it's basically putting 27 esoteric Merkaba fields around you to protect you from any entities, fractals thereof, manipulations and transmissional frequencies that are not for your highest good through all space-time continuum in every dimension. If you keep saying that 3 times a day, it keeps these entities out. Because the thing is think about healing, you do healing on somebody and you're not protecting them. So they're just there, you send them a bit of energy, whatever you're doing, and the energy subsides after 2-3 hours. These entities can reattach because they've still got enough trauma that their vibration's low. So to me, it's very important that you've got to protect them, or they've got to protect themselves whilst you're doing the healing, until you've got their vibration way up where their energy is way higher than them. So these low vibration entities can't even get anywhere near your field. Yeah. So it just takes some time, and people, of course, always want the red pill or whatever it is, and I don't know. So
is that the same way you would stop incubus succubus attacks, that kind of thing?
Oh yeah, same way. Yeah, that stops them all. that stops things latching on. Because once, if people don't know what a Merkaba, I've got a crystal Merkaba here. It's 9-point star, so it's 27 layers of energy. And what that'll do is, because it's high vibration, it'll just stop these things from getting through. If you say it like 3 times a day, morning, mid-afternoon, evening, it really helps, So,
was there any difference between when you came over to America compared to England? Was there any sort of difference in the entity layout or the, is one of those places? Is there any difference in them energetically?
Well, that's a good question. Like with the sacredness of the UK, Darren, you mean, kind of thing?
Well, they're both layered in a bunch of stuff. It seems like America got really fucked up during a cataclysm at some point. The UK's got years of sort of battle and blood over there, but so does America. Has that plus a cataclysm maybe, but it also has this freedom aspect to it that is unique throughout human history. The
America actually is a lot lighter, a lot lighter. How do we know? Because the Masonic Lodge in Marble Arch, we talk about the 133 degrees Masonic, 34, 37 is Bohemian Grove, where they're the big bankers and everything else. And the center of it is in Marble Arch. That's why a lot of presidents and whatever go over to Marble Arch and they do a ritual to get an attachment on that person. And that's where it all stems from, in London. So to me, when I fly over to England, about 100 miles out, oh, wow, I can feel the energy from there. And as you get closer, what I do is just put 5 feet around me. Let's just focus on what I'm doing. I'm seeing the kids. I'm having a bit of fun, and we're getting out of here, But the energy in the UK is absolutely terrible. Last time I went back for a week, and I saw 6 kind of altercations. I went to the bank, someone was yelling and screaming, and okay. And then, I saw something in the street, and, people are so angsty at the moment there. It's tough, So I haven't been there for 5 years, and so hopefully we'll go back maybe this year, who knows. But, for me, I won't go on a plane because I know a lot about planes, and bits are falling off them in midair, that'd be the engine gone. Oops, there's the door fell off, and it's happening every other day. And you think, oh my God, what are they doing? But so I won't be going anywhere for a bit on a plane. I don't know about you guys, but yeah,
we got a lot of plane travel coming up.
Well, just pray before you go. So, bless your heart.
That's all you can do. I mean, it still seems to be safer than cars at this point, especially. I mean, I don't know about what it's like down there, but in Canada, we've got a real Russian roulette thing going on here since we sort of brought our entire trucking force now has been imported and can't speak English or read the signs properly or understand how to drive in winter.
Absolutely, yeah. It's very true. Well, I think the level of driving has gone since people have taken these jabs. They're not concentrated. How about you guys? But when I drive around here, even if it's my right of way, we're on a main road as a side road, I'll slow down because very often people just pull out and don't. They're not like, hello, is there anybody there? It's insane. I've never seen driving like it. But yeah,
it does seem to be getting worse for sure. It seems to be maybe.
Oh yeah, well. Don't forget, as this stuff grows through, it grows through the brain, it goes through everywhere. So if you don't do something about it, it's really going to affect your cognitive issues, give you cognitive issues. It's going to affect your heart, it's going to affect your liver, kidneys, everything to the point where, you can get into real trouble. So, yeah. So, yeah. But at least we have a solution for it. So.
Is there anything we haven't gotten into yet from your work or the book that we need to touch on in the last 5 minutes?
Yeah, well, if anyone, I mean, I do healings we work on all week. We do actually 2 healings by donation twice a week, which is Thursday night and Saturday, 11 a.m. Central Time, and Thursday, 5 p.m. Central Time, because I always wanted to make sure, because when I went bankrupt, I had times without food, like 21 days, 15 days, whatever, quite a lot. And, it made me realize that what it's like to literally have no money, not even for food. So I always wanted to make sure that everyone deserves a healing. So we do an hour, twice a week, and make sure we cover a lot of things like tumors and, diabetes and osteoporosis and heart things. So, it covers a lot. So, if you want to join them, by donation. Of course, if you have no money, just please come on them, because, we're here to help, So, but yeah, there's a lot going on in the world. And I think, I'd encourage people to take a step back from the matrix, because, I've used this planet as absolutely stunning. It's stunning, but the behavior on it's absolutely abysmal. So, and if you start the behavior and just enjoy the planet itself, it's all going to manifest. I'm a great believer with the disclosure of the ETs. How it'll happen, I don't know, but certainly, I just hope this Project Bluebeam, which is creating solid holographic inserts, is that a manipulation? Will they run it? Will the white hat stop it? Who knows? I don't know if I ever told. Well, I've probably not told you guys, but when I was American citizen, 2017. Before that, you had to go to immigration. Then you had to go for a medical. So I go to this medical. This doctor said, "I've got to ask you a few questions from Homeland Security. I've got to look in your eyes and see your response." So he's looking at me, and he said, "Have you ever been to a shopping mall and it didn't feel right? People weren't communicating properly, and it felt completely surreal." I knew exactly what I was talking about. I said, "Can you run that by me again?" I knew what he's talking about. He said, "Yeah, ever been to a shopping mall, and suddenly it's all different?" And I've done it, in Walmart. I remember, I don't go to Walmart anymore because it's got the technology in, but Walmart have holographic insert technology. What does that mean? Well, they can change the whole store. So one day I walked in, the lighting was different, the colors were different. Looked on the right-hand side, and there was Subway there, and all the tables that were bolted down to the floor had disappeared. On the way in, I didn't think about it, and there's no trolleys, and this guy was just standing there, and I said, "There's no trolleys." There's no trolleys. Oh, okay. So I asked my beings, "Is this a holographic insert?" They go, "Yeah, get outside, take it out." So I walked outside, removed it, walked back in, and it was back to normal. That's what holographic insert is all about. And I've seen it. Another thing is I went to Tampa. So I was speaking at the Unity Church in St. Petersburg. So I went to Tampa, flew in, supposed to drive down to St. Petersburg. Didn't think anything of it. There's no traffic, and it was 5 o'clock. And not one car around. What the heck? I don't understand this. Is this? Yeah, it's a holographic insert. Stupid me. I took it out and suddenly got around the corner, and we were in traffic for like 40, 50 minutes. What I should have done is left it until I got to the until you get to the destination, and then take it out. But it feels surreal. You just know that it's not right. People aren't communicating. The energy is different. Yeah.
So what did Buddy say to you when you asked him when he asked you that question and you answered? What did you answer?
Asked him a question
in the HHS interview.
Oh well, what I did is, can you repeat again? And then he got a bit kind of crabby. Well, blah, 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 and you've been to the shop. I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." He goes, "Well, clearly not." And he was kind of quite rude about it. So yeah, that what they were doing is checking with the CIA and that, have you got experience of holographic inserts? Of course, I didn't tell them.
Can you make your own of those? Can you weaponize that somehow?
Well, it's very high level technology, but I mean, they've got it, and Project Bluebeam, they can create holographic solid inserts, so like a craft that's like a solid insert, because these other things are just frequency. But if you create a solid insert, then it's going to give people like, wow, this is a proper craft, when it's not. It's just manipulation. But yeah, no, to take them out, it's just power of maps of intent. You can take it out. And we've actually got one of the maps of intent on the website, how to take out a holographic insert. So if you go in somewhere and it feels surreal, people aren't communicating, they're shut down, and it doesn't feel right, the chances are, always use your intuition, it's not right. So what you need to do is use that, map of intent to take it out, and it really works. Yeah, there's so many different things, it's unbelievable. So I became assistant in 2017.
Good. Congratulations.
But what was interesting is the last thing he asked me, the immigration officer, he goes, "Is there anything that can make you American?" He goes, "Come on, what is it?" And I said, "I can't give up afternoon tea." And he goes, "I don't think we're worried about that." It was really funny. But now there's so much involved with all this stuff. I mean, I don't know, you guys. Do you guys get around a lot and speak a lot? Or?
We don't speak a lot. I mean, Graham's done some speaking down in the States. I got to do some speaking in the States this summer, but we do try. We do run a tour company with people like it's contact@thecabin.com. So we've been sort of all over. We got to go to Egypt. We're going to Easter Island in April. We're going to Malta next year, Serpent Mound. Been all over the States. I mean, it's been great. We've been able to travel enough to realize that, at least so far, America's the best. And I mean, I'm an Indian, so I'm a PR already. I can just sort of go back and forth and do what I want. But we actually registered our tour company in the States, so that because once you have your company and pay taxes in the States with it for 6 years or something like that, it might only be 3 years even. It's either 3 years or 6 years. But once you do that, you get like put on a different list for getting your citizenship. So that would be on the hope that, if Graham ever has to, because we always have in the back of our heads in Canada that we might be in West Germany, and there could be a time when it's a better idea to East Germany, and it's a better idea to get over to West Germany as quickly as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you never know what's going to happen. I think also the plates, the Madrid fault and all this, there's going to be some adjustment in the actual, land masses. That's evident. I mean, they keep warning. We've even got a sign out in Springfield, Missouri, where it says, we're on our 50-year cycle of the Madrid fault, so just be careful, be aware, So, I think they're expecting some big stuff to happen.
Definitely. It's something we get into all the time, yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, under the oceans, there's like over 1 million volcanoes. If they start erupting, then
Yeah.
and people can't see them. And, okay. So I think we're in for a bit of a ride. I think it's all positive, though. And nothing bothers me. There's one thing I've learned in life is that when you go bankrupt, when things happen and, it's really, really tough, when you come out, you have this inner strength, you take your power back and nothing matters. Life or death, the thing is, there is no death. You just go to an amazing place. I've experienced it. So why would you be like worried about getting off this planet? The place is not. But when you get to that, you really focus on the things that you really enjoy, knowing God's got your back. And when you get there, I've had people on podcasts saying, well, I said, well, how do you get a spiritual business so successful? And the answer is, it's surrender, it's gratitude, and knowing God's got your back and doing what you love. And this guy's, well, I don't agree because, I've got to go and I've got 5 kids, I've got to work, 3 jobs, But truly, if you really surrender, I'm living proof of it, because did I ever thought I'd get here? No, here we are. It's incredible. So when you really surrender and God's got your back and it's blissy, you're doing stuff for others, and you always have enough. You won't be a multi-billionaire, but you always have enough, and that's all you need, So and happiness, of course, as well, because you're doing what you love.
Yeah, good for you. That's awesome.
How many different guests we've had say that in sort of different ways. You'll figure it out, man. Before you're fucking sleeping homeless in the alley, you'll probably put something together, or get a new job or figure something out.
Well, when I went bankrupt, I was living out of a car for 4 years. Literally living on the street out the car. Sometimes people invite me, like they'd sponsor me and say, well, give me a healing. I'll get you, a room for the night at this hotel. I was sponsored to go to Belize. I was sponsored to go to India, all over the place. But there was a few times when I didn't learn that and I was like feeling sorry for myself. And of course, no food, I wouldn't ask people for it. And it made me realize when life turns around, you've always got enough. You've got to really look at that now if I get a plate of food, wow, thank you God for the blessing of this food. Beautiful, you know. So yeah, it's changed my life completely.
Christopher Macklin, this has been great. Where can people get your books? Where can they find all your healing services, all that kind of stuff? Can they follow you on any social media? We'll put it on the show notes, of course, but lots of people don't get to the show notes, so we like to mention it here as well.
Yeah, if you go to globalenlightenmentproject.com, you know, it's got a lot of things on there. All the books are on there. I think I've written 6 books. Well, I'd help them the ghostwriter. I can't take all the credit for it. We do one-to-ones healings. We do specialized groups up to 20 people. We talk to everyone and then do the healing after. We do the general groups, you know, twice a week, like 5 p.m. Central Time on Thursday and 11 a.m. Central Time on Saturday. We also do a monthly clearing as well, where I clear people every single night because of the tumultuous things that are happening now. If you have a clearing every single night at 6 p.m. Central Time, it really helps. It really helps people maintain a level, and it releases like 9 layers of emotion every single night. So we do that, you know, and yeah. And we do a lot of other things. We actually did the ceremony. We have a ceremony which is really interesting. It's free to join. The next one is 120 days, which is, I don't know, June sometime. So what we do is we do a ceremony, call out big tech, big pharma, call out all the cabal, we call out all the gates, we call out all the satanic people, you know, big tech, everything, and bring them before God for justice. And we had about a lot of people on last time. And you know, it's really powerful. And you know, people often say, well, we don't have the money like Zuckerbucks or Jeff Bezos. We don't have the money to do anything. You don't need money. It's worthless. What you need is the power of God behind you. And it's really helped. It's helped people be able to step up and be able to do something. The child trafficking people, bringing them before God and release them to God with unconditional forgiveness. And then we reinstate it every day for the next 120 days. That's actually countering the satanic rituals. And it really helps. So, yeah, that's... the next one will be about June, I think. So, yeah.
Good idea. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Perfect. We'll be down there in June too. We'll be in Ohio, I guess.
Oh, it's not far, actually, is it?
We're going to the Serpent Round. So we're actually meeting up with some people we have that live in Missouri that are coming out to that. So.
Oh, brilliant. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Christopher Macklin, this has been fantastic. We appreciate you taking some time out of your weekend.
Let's do it again if you're interested, bless you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think we could, I'll get in touch with your publicist, but I think we could do another show for other podcasts that is more controversial. We have like a members section and it gets into some of the stuff we just sort of touched on here that we could maybe expand on.
Absolutely, that'd be great. Oh, bless your hearts. Well, thanks for having me on.
Have a great day.
God bless. Thanks for having me on.
And that was our chat with Christopher Macklin, PhD, UFOs, paranormal, all that stuff. What'd you think?
Yeah, that was fun. That was good. Pretty interesting.
That was a fun. We'll have to do an outlawed where we get into all that, unpack that jab stuff a little bit more and all that sort of stuff. I mean, we were talking about all sorts of stuff while we were waiting for you about the UK and freedom and before we were on air. So he's right there with us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always interesting. Finding people in these communities that are still pushing back.
Yeah, more like-minded than you think is possible.
Yeah.
So big thanks to Christopher for coming on the show. Big thanks to you guys for listening. Even bigger thanks if you're one of the few choose to support the work over at grimerica.ca/support. If you are getting some value from the show, head over there. We're trying to get everyone to just sign up even for $1 or $2, and it will make a huge difference. We've gotten some good results so far. So you can join that. You can just sign up for $12 for the whole year if you want to do it that way. $6 for the year, $1 a show, whatever you want to do. If you're on YouTube, you can sign up as a member there as well and support us that way. Pretty much wherever you're listening, you can probably sign up. And if you can't, go to grimerica.ca/support, sign up for a monthly or make a one-time donation today. Keep the show around for another few years. Other than that, check out contact@thecabin.com if you want to come on one of them trips with us, going to Easter Island in a couple of months. Adultbrain.ca. We have upgraded that over there, so I'm starting to populate it all with ebooks and PDFs, so members will get all the ebooks of all our stuff along with their subscription, the audiobooks. the PDFs, and then we'll give the members 25% off paperbacks as well. So check that out if you're into audiobooks and you don't love Audible. If you do love Audible, just search Adult Brain Publishing on Audible or Spotify, and you should find all our books there. And you can buy them or listen to them, whatever you got to do. GrayAmericaOutlawed.ca for the other podcast. Other than that, I love you guys. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.